So, what's up? It's first of all, it's pretty clear. Christie's office, the fingerprints of Christie's office are all over this, right?
Sure.
How do we know that?
Yeah, well, one of his deputy chiefs of staff, Bridget Ann Kelly, was directly involved in this whole scandal, and in fact exchanged emails with officials within the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, officials that were in fact appointed by Chris Christie, and helped direct them on how to best seek revenge against Mayor Sokolich of Fort Lee, who was desperately seeking help to try to alleviate some of these traffic problems. This was back in September.
There were 3 lanes coming into New York City. Mm-hmm. They closed 2 of them for 4 days in a row.
Yep.
And the most incriminating email may be the first one that she sent to to Mr. Wildstein, I guess, who was the head of the Bridge Authority, again, appointed by, and a friend, a buddy of Chris Christie's.
Yeah, longtime buddy.
And her email said, quote, "Time for some traffic problems in Fort Lee."
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty clear that this was something that was premeditated and pretty thoroughly planned out for weeks before they actually went ahead and
yeah, I mean, closing
traffic.
those lanes, it's not just you push a button and it happens, right?
Right.
So they claimed that this was all due to a traffic study. They had to close 4 lanes for a traffic study, and Chris Christie even said that himself, didn't he?
Yeah. This was the position that they kept coming back to when people began questioning the reasoning behind closing all of those lanes. And I think people immediately began to ask, well, why weren't people informed about this traffic study ahead of time? Because closing the George Washington Bridge is not something that you make on a decision you make on a whim. It's tens of thousands of people who rely on that artery every day to get to work or to school. And that kind of disruption is can be really kind of have a lot of serious consequences for a lot of people.
There were, in 4 cases, there were EMS crews that were stuck in traffic. In one case, a 91-year-old woman in a coma in the ambulance dies.
Yeah.
There were school kids stuck in buses for all those hours and hours. At the end of the problems, all the problems there.
Sure.
And the head of the Bridge Authority about those school children said, quote, "They are the children of Buono voters." Right. So basically, don't worry about them. They're little Democrats. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think perhaps even more shocking to see the cavalier way in which they were describing some of these the real world impacts that their decision to close this bridge was having on people, and we're just dismissing it and acting like this is exactly what they intended to happen.
And Christie himself was accusing the media of sensationalizing the story.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, when he wasn't dismissing the questions outright as ridiculous, he was making fun of the situation, claiming that it wasn't that big of a deal, and we're seeing now these stories that are coming out that this, in fact, was a very serious safety issue. All
right. So, a couple of questions. One, Christie says he knew nothing about it. Mm-hmm. Can we believe him?
It's hard to tell. He also was saying that his office had no involvement several weeks ago, and that turned out not to be the case. And I do think that there are still many, many questions out there that we don't yet have answers for, and I'm sure over the coming weeks or months we'll learn more. And who knows if, perhaps somebody did drop a memo or, he asked a couple questions and then, willfully decided not to find out any more information. I think these are things that we don't yet know, but hopefully will soon come to light.
Well, I don't believe him, for one thing. But one of the reasons I don't, first of all, his style is this bully. And in some cases, it was like good to be a bully. When Hurricane Sandy hit, he didn't care if people didn't like the fact that he was hanging out with President Obama. He was going to get the help he needed for his state, and he just said, screw it, I'm going down there. That's where So if you're governor of New Jersey, and one of the main arteries from New Jersey to New York is the George Washington Bridge, and you find out the bridge is, even for an hour, right, they've shut in rush hour traffic in the morning, that they've shut 2 out of 3 lanes, and then they do it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days in a row, and you're governor of New Jersey, and his style would be to raise holy hell about that, not to laugh it off.
Right. And it's not like people weren't bringing this, to his attention. Mayor Sokolich, mentioned yesterday in interviews that he, tried his hardest to get in touch with people in the governor's office and try to find out what was going on and if there was any way to fix it. Dozens of phone calls and emails and text messages were placed by Mayor Sokolich himself, or certainly people within his office, to try to get more information. And yeah, this idea that never made it to Governor Christie's desk is, certainly kind of raises some questions about whether or not that's actually the case.
Yeah.